Welcome to the Real Estate Fight Club, a podcast for agents where you'll witness a battle of opinions about topics affecting your real estate business.
Hello, this is a series called Better Call Saul, where we discuss what is currently possible, that if it were impossible, or what is currently impossible, that if it were possible, would fundamentally change the way that we do business as real estate agents. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about what if you, the buyer's agent, had to present your client's offer directly to the seller. Here with me today is my co-host, Rachel Reel, broker owner of Rachel Real Estate in Chicago. Hello, Rachel.
Good afternoon, Jennifer. How are you?
Great. So Rachel has been an agent for, are we on year 19, Rachel?
We're year 18.
Year
18 and a half-ish? Yeah.
Almost.
We're into it.
Almost legal. Yeah. Okay. She has been on the Pro Standards Committee for 8 of those years, currently serving as a 3-time past chair, and she is passionately nerdy about all real estate rules.
I am, sadly. And with us today, we have Saul Klein, who is the godfather of real estate technology. Saul has been licensed to sell real estate for over 47 years, and he was an original team member of Realtor.com and the creator of NAR's technology certification program we know as ePro. Saul was personally responsible for the first 500,000 listings to be displayed to the public on Realtor.com, spearheading listing syndication, which is the distribution of your listings to the consumer over the internet. Welcome, Saul. Let's dive into today's topic, which is presenting our buyers' offers. Way back when, how did we do it?
Yeah, well, so it's a paradigm shift, but it's like a reverse paradigm shift, right?
It's retro.
Right, because we're circling back to what it was. Yeah. It's vintage now. We're going to call it vintage.
All things are repeat themselves, right? So
yes.
Lately, I've been involved in some conversations. I've heard people saying, well, we don't present offers. We represent the buyer, but we give our offers to the listing agent, and the listing agent presents the offer. And I thought to myself, well, that's cockamamie. That's unbelievable. You've got this fiduciary duty. You know who the buyer is. You don't present the offer. In my mind, you're not fulfilling your duties. And maybe the listing agent could call the shots in the market over the last 12 years. But I think that there's a major shift taking place. And if you're selling real estate today, you ought to consider, if you're working on the buyer side, you ought to consider what it's going to take for you to get in front of a seller yourself, so you can make the case with all of the passion that you can bring to the seller on behalf of the buyer.
And of course, all the pictures of their family, right, Saul?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted
Don't be starting with fair housing, damn it.
I wanted to see Rachel hyperventilate.
You're trying to fire me up, right?
But Saul, I 100% agree with you. But how did we get away from it? So, tell me how it used to work exactly. And then how did we get away from doing that?
So we used to believe, it was like the watchword of our faith in real estate was time is of the essence.
Ooh, I like it.
Because an offer is not, unless we communicate acceptance of that offer, typically in writing, we don't have a deal. And we know that lots of things can go sideways.
Yeah.
Oh, and they often do.
Buyers can get buyer's remorse, sellers can, all kinds of things can happen. So the idea was, look, if I am working with a buyer and the buyers decided they want an offer made on the property, then first of all, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and I'm going to write that offer. And you've heard this before. We write it on the hood of the car, right? I mean, wherever we happen to be, we'll stop everything. We write the next thing is we contact the listing agent. We say, I have an offer on your listing and I'd like to make an appointment to present the offer. At which time the listing agent would call the seller and make arrangements. And you typically would meet the listing agent at the property and you would go in and you would present the offer to the seller. The listing agent would be there, but who knows better, the qualifications.
Now I know why we got away from it. Right into happy hour, Saul.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a whole nother conversation about don't interrupt my free time. I'm in real estate, but I really got to look out for my best interest, which is my family, and that's more important than the duties that I owe to my buyer or to my seller. And I think that's the wrong attitude as well. Right, as well as a breach of fiduciary duty if you're not careful. Right. So that's the way it used to be done. It was all, as soon as we got the parties ready to engage, then the people representing the parties and the parties got together and engaged. Now, we always kept the buyer at arm's length, right? So the buyer didn't get to go with us.
Nothing good ever happens when you put a buyer and seller in a room together and let them talk about it. I mean, you could listen to our pro standards or what would you do episodes to hear all about those.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So then as the person representing the buyer, I would go in and present for that buyer. Now I had to convince the buyer that I was the best person to present for them, right? That I would be better than they would be.
Things, right? Like when and if this practice goes back, like comes back into regular practice, everyday practice, that would make it very, like the buyers would want to make sure they have the right representation and that buyer agent
100%
will get an agreement signed. And then they would also stay focused on where do they want to sell houses? Because I'm assuming this can also be done virtually, but I think there's an argument there. And this could be another argument. Can the same thing be done virtually that's done face to face? And I think that depends on the client.
And it depends on the real estate agent.
Yeah.
Right.
So look, I
think when we go back to that too, if we went back to this particular method of doing things, the reputation in the real estate industry of the buyer's agent is going to come into play a lot more too.
So yes, and so this brings this compelling argument conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What is your compelling argument to a real estate consumer, be they a buyer or a seller? And we talked about this question. You can use it on both sides of the coin. Why would you hire you? So think about it. Forget clients. If you were somebody and you owned real estate, why would you hire yourself, knowing everything about yourself? Why would you hire you as opposed to your competition? And the answers to that question should be part of your marketing. Now, it also plays on the buyer side. Knowing everything you know about real estate, if you wanted to go out and buy real estate, why would you hire yourself to represent you in a real estate? And one reason might be because you know that you are going to do everything and make every effort to be present at the offer presentation because you know nobody can represent the buyer like you can.
But if we're looking at the logistics of how this could work, the cost of being an agent has exponentially gone up, I would say in the last 30 years, I imagine, right? So it's like
I'm not sure. I mean, I'll agree with you but I don't know that that's the case.
Okay. Well, in my 13 years, it has gone up. For sure. I know that.
Or you mean like your dues for the MLS or
all of the expenses like marketing, property?
No, you could put it on the internet for free. I mean, the marketing is like much cheaper than it used to be, right? You had to pay, you had to run ads and you had to run display ads and you couldn't even afford display ads. And then the internet came along and it didn't cost anything. So I'm not sure that it's more expensive than it used to be, but I'll go with you on that.
Okay. What about if it's cheaper to have a listing, but we also need to keep more of our money because expenses on the personal side have gone up. What about that?
Well, yeah, no doubt that the cost of living for everybody,
has gone up. So it's kind of like you have to net more, I guess is what I'm saying, in order to keep the same lifestyle that we did 10 years ago.
Or sell more properties.
So you sell more properties. Let's say that if you're a top performing agent, you're selling like 30, 40 properties, right? And then you have the other agents that are selling like 80, 100. Logistically, if you're selling, let's say you're selling 36 properties a year, is this like let's like walk down the path?
Yeah. So here's an interesting thought.
Is it something that you can physically do? Being able to be in one place at one time.
Correct. Because it's like this, right? Like it's a bell curve. It's not like you sell 36 houses and that's 3 a month. It's not like that.
Right. It would be nice if it was, but it's not. It's either utter chaos or quiet.
Right.
So how do you still benefit from being an agent that presents their buyer's offer either in person or in Zoom or whatever it might be?
You have more teams now. You have more, so it's not like one person is selling typically 100 properties a year. It's like they've got people helping them.
Solo agents doing like 36 deals. Let's just take that as an example.
So I don't know, 36 deals a year.
Yeah.
I think you could handle that. I mean, I think so. I don't think that 36 is too many for one person and a personal assistant to be
I don't
able
think
to
it's
handle
too many
today.
to handle as we do it now. I'm thinking if it goes to where we're presenting offers, I mean, I don't really represent a lot of buyers. So Rachel, when you're representing a buyer, how many offers on average are you writing?
During the chaotic market of COVID, I mean, I was up to 30 offers for one client. So I mean, in that market, it was utter chaos.
You're not always presenting all 30, right, Saul? Or were you presenting every offer, or was it like?
We were
Right,
back then we were presenting just about every offer, but again, 36 deals a year is only 3 a month. And so then, right, 3 a month. So how many? So it depends on your closing ratio. But and this goes back to planning and looking. Okay, I need to contact this many people to write this many offers to get this many accepted to get this many to close. Right.
Yeah, so let's say the average is you need to write. I mean, Rachel, what do you think in the market today? 4?
Yeah, I would say, between 4 and 5, 3 and 5-ish, somewhere in there. I mean, when you're talking about kind of an average market, if I think back to buyers I've worked with over the years, we might write a couple of offers before we get one that sticks.
So then that's 144 offers total over the year for the client. Mm-hmm. So that's presenting 12 offers a month. But it's not like that, right? It's like you'll close 5 of them. You'll close 5 of them in 1 month, or 6 in a month. But let's just say you close 5 in a month and there's 4. So you're presenting 20 offers that month. I mean, I think it's doable. It could be chaotic.
Well, yeah, you also have to look at the perception and the feeling of the listing agent and the sellers, and trying to get, I mean, back 30, 40 years ago, things weren't nearly as busy as they are now. People's kids weren't in 800 activities. You didn't have dual working families where both adults are out working different places at different times.
Together.
Right. You didn't have, I mean, I wasn't driving up to Vernon. My parents weren't driving up to Vernon Hills, from Lombard, 35, 40 years ago to do sports. You went to the grade school 3 blocks down and they walked to the game and you came home. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't an all day affair with a lot of traveling. So, I mean, if you look back at the way, when it was the norm and buyers agents presented their offers in person, it was the norm. And that was what the expectation was on the listing agent and seller side. Now that that's not there because of all the technology that we have that makes it far more easy for us to present an offer and do it really quickly, because you can do it from a phone now.
Right.
But you're going to get pushback from a listing agent. You're going to get pushback from a listing agent and a seller saying, "Hey, I don't have time for this. Just send me your stuff."
So you hit a really important. If the seller says, "I don't want that," then that's a different story. Mm-hmm. So that means that the job of the listing agent is counseling. Yeah. What's in the best interest of the seller based on what the seller. So now you're really a counselor, which is what you should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
And so then you get something in writing that says, no, the seller has decided that the best way for them to sell the property is right. But none of that takes place today. And
no, it doesn't.
Right. And so then again, another interesting point that you just kind of brought up is, does the super agent, let's say the person that closes 200 deals, are they really performing in the best interest of the seller or buyer? And I actually might turn around and use that against them and say, no, you know what? I don't close 200 deals a year. I close 50 deals a year. And I focus on you. And we're back to this question of how do you differentiate yourself from the competition? And there are a lot of ways to do it, looking at the different ways that people practice in the market today.
But you know what? Actually, I just had a thought. So if we do go back as an agent, and I'm like, the chances of the co-op agent selling less than us is really high. Most agents sell what, like 5 houses a year?
Yeah, that's probably over. Was it Rachel? Like for many years, 50% of the people that were members of a multiple listing service didn't sell anything.
Didn't sell anything at all, right? And I would fully support going to a minimum standard or a minimum bar of transactions to be a member of NAR.
That's a whole
or to be able to practice. That's a whole other story.
What if,
but I mean, think about
it live, you could also do a video.
Absolutely. Well, you can just sit there into the side or sit in a waiting room even. I wouldn't even argue with that, and just say, bring me in if you have questions. If you have questions, I'm here.
Yeah, but the problem
I mean,
is
think
a
about
lot of these
all the
listing
nuance for all
agents-
these different offers.
But they don't know. They don't know what their
No.
questions are because they haven't even read the contract, right? So
Don't get me started.
the problem that listing agents are going to have with the buyer's agents presenting the problem the buyer's agents are going to have is they're not going to think that they're skilled enough to do the presentation, right?
Then they shouldn't be selling real estate.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you. But that's not the case, right? That's not the reality.
It could be if the competent agents pushed what they do and how they differentiate
I'm running
themselves.
for Czarina. If you vote for me, that will happen.
Well, and I think part of that, Saul, to your point, part of that is educating the public that what they don't know, they don't know.
Yeah.
So they have to they have to be open to understanding that a vast majority of agents don't have a good grasp on what they're doing. So, and they don't know any different as a consumer. So how do we go in and make sure that we relay that information in a way that they can understand?
Yeah. And then the listing agents will say, well, I don't want the buyer agent to speak directly to the clients because what if they steal them? Well, they're not going to steal them because
I don't think that's the
Not a
concern. I
contract.
think the concern is they're going to make me look stupid.
right. That's exactly.
But then we're back to fiduciary duties,
Agreed.
right? And whose best interest are you representing?
I love it. I think we should do it. Let's do it, Rachel.
You know what? Here's the thing. When you talk about the nuances to all these different offers, you've got escalation clauses with caps, without caps. You've got all kinds of crazy things that we deal with, in this market, or even any market, really. Escalation clauses have been around for a while. But you've got all these different nuances. And if you have a straight up, here's my offer, here's my earnest money, here's my closing date, here's my loan, it's straightforward. There's not a lot of questions that are going to come out of that.
Right.
So when I put together an offer, I always do a cover email to the listing agent / sellers and address it to both of them and say, here is my client's offer, as if I were presenting it in person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what I've used to take the place of the old school way of presenting it in person. Right. Exactly. Do something, but at least spell it out and explain a little bit more of the nuance that isn't going to be incorporated in the contract document itself. But now when you have an offer that's got an escalation clause with an undisclosed cap, and you're waiving certain things, and you've got cash, but you're saying if we'll pay cash, but maybe we won't or maybe we'll get a mortgage, but we don't have to. All these different nuance. Sometimes those other agents, that co-op agent you're dealing with, doesn't understand what those things are. We've had long discussions about escalation clauses and undisclosed caps, and the amount of different opinions on what that means is frightening. So you have offers that are going in that maybe aren't being presented accurately.
For sure, they're not
with the buyer's intentions to the seller, and then therefore they're not getting those offers.
So who knows the buyer the best?
Right.
Who knows the conditions of the contract the best? Who can, as you say, express the nuance the best?
Absolutely.
To win that deal for their client. And it's
absolutely
not necessarily the listing agent.
I agree with you.
No, it's not.
And I think that as a listing agent, or a buyer's agent, you're going to really think long and hard about who your clients are, if and when this comes back into something that we do, and where the location is, right? Like if I know my world is on this part of town, I'm not going to take listings. If I have to be at every offer presentation, I'm not going to take listings clear on the side of town. Or as a listing agent, I'd be like, yeah, you can present your offer and all the other offers on Saturday at, whatever it is, like a time.
Right. Here's what we're going to do. Right.
Where you just rotate them in through so you can do apples for apples, but then you have the time of the essence issue. And the buyers will know that we're looking for multiple offers, and they might pull.
There's so much to this right now. You throw this in, and that is AI is going to artificial intelligence is going to change the whole game.
Well, technology has already changed
right?
a lot.
So all the technology, but in particular, that you're going to see acceleration in the technology here in the next couple of years. It's going to blow people away. And then even we have this conversation around dual agency.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I've always been of the opinion that there's nothing wrong with dual agency.
Nope. Rachel
because often a dual
depends agent, I'm going to say it depends on the person.
It depends on the people involved. Often a dual agent, a competent dual agent is better than two incompetent single agents.
Boom, boom.
I would not disagree with that.
And this whole conversation is that we have all these incompetent people selling real estate.
Well,
How do we fix this?
I think we need to wrap this up. The question is what if we return to where you as the buyer agent has to present or gets to present your offer directly to the seller? How does this change things for you? And what does that look like? And we want to hear your feedback. Make sure you comment.
One thing, think about, there's litigation today that might make buyer representation and commissions on the buyer side more of a reality. And if that takes place, and that's a paradigm shift. If that takes place, then how are you going to differentiate yourself from all the other people that are representing buyers in transactions? And one way to do it is to say you're very effective at face-to-face communication with the listing agent and the seller in an offer presentation.
I love it.
Right. And I think on the flip side, listing agents should try to be a little more open-minded when a buyer's agent does approach them and say, hey, I would like to present this offer in person or via Zoom, whatever it might be. We don't all have to get together, but if everybody's in different places and a 15-minute or 10-minute Zoom call will work, then that's fantastic. Let's hop on there. And I'd like to see listing agents not have such pushback on that and be so guarded about having that conversation or being part of the conversation with the offer being presented.
I agree, but that also allows us as buyer's agents to be more creative in the offers and to really dig deep. What's going to work for the buyer and the seller, and to talk to each other. Each agent talk to each other to find out what's really going to work, not just surface stuff.
And the market's changing.
That does allow that for sure.
The market's changing, and listing agents are going to be looking for offers.
Yeah, exactly.
It isn't going to be they're going to be looking for offers. They're going to love you when you call them and say you're bringing an offer in.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, Rachel, if people have a referral for you in Chicago or they want to get a hold of you, what is the best way?
The best way to reach me is by cell phone at 630-542-8688. You can shoot me a text there or reach me on Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere you can find me on social at Rachel Real Estate.
Awesome. And Saul, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, you can join us on Facebook at Real Talk. It's a great Facebook group, and we've been around for about 35 years now, communicating online, or Saul at saulklein.com or Saul at bettercallsaul.realtor. And I'd love to hear from you.
And if we want to get on your newsletter to just get more context about, because what is your saying that you have about context?
Text without context is pretext.
Yes.
Right? Actually, I think it's a biblical quote. Text without context is pretext. So the Data Advocate, if you go to the dataadvocate.com or the dataadvocateblog.com, we're talking about this and many paradigm shifts coming down the line, things we're going to see in the next couple of years.
I love it. Thanks for being on, guys.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
You too.